What does the new second season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives tell us about modern Mormonism, gender, religion, and capitalism in America? As a scholar of American religious history with a special focus on Mormonism and has written 2 books on the Mormon experience, watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is one of my guilty pleasures. While I know there are a lot of issues with the show and that reality TV is rarely depicting reality, I think it's a poignant expression of some central tensions of the Mormon tradition today, as I actually outlined in a previous video in anticipation for the new season. Now that I've binged the entire second season, I thought I would overview a few things in this video. One, I'll give a general summary of what I find the upsides and the downsides of the new season. I'll talk about one particular scene that I can't wait to use in a class on American religious history. I'll talk about how their definition of progress, trying to present a progressive Mormon image, what that tells us about both the MomTok community and the broader modern Mormonism. And I'll also talk about what MomTok as an entity has become. And don't worry, there won't be any spoilers in this video about things that happen in the second season. Let's dig in. Let me say at the outset that reality TV isn't my genre. And the things that excite me as a over-specialized history and religious nerd probably bore others. And the things that bore me in these reality TV shows are probably what lead millions to tune in. So take what I say with a grain of salt. But as a scholar, I want to talk about what I saw as the positives of the season from the perspective of understanding modern Mormonism, religion, and gender in America. And I do also want to emphasize at the start, no, this series is not a reflection or a full representative status of modern Mormonism. These women are quite unique. That's why they have a TV series, and it would be foolish to assume that they are giving a representative demonstration of how most Latter-day Saints operate today. That's not the function of reality TV in general, and it's certainly not the function of this show. However, it is reflective of a broader segment of Mormon culture than many might assume, both those outside of the faith and those inside the faith that just want a homogeneous depiction of their community. And further, there is virtues in understanding the parameters, the fringes of a group so that you can understand what those borders are, which gives you further insight of what the community is. And there have been a lot of recent studies, including in Jana Reese's phenomenal book, The Next Mormons, that show that the generation from which these Secret Lives of Mormon Wives women are coming from are less likely to follow strict rules of word of wisdom, are less likely to frequently attend church, more likely to practice premarital sex, less likely to always wear their garments. In other words, we have a generation of Latter-day Saints more willing to be open about their cafeteria Mormon style, picking and choosing what you like. And that understanding these fringe and extremes examples can help us trace out the contours of modern Mormonism. With those, first statements out of the way, let's now dig into some of the positives of this season. By the way, if you like this kind of substantive analysis in which history is brought into conversation with the present, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. Like I've mentioned before, I've already done a video on the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and how it was a fruition of tensions and trajectories within the LDS institution that began over a decade ago. And I frequently do videos on Wednesdays talking about contemporary politics, media, television, and how history can provide a better perspective on those topics. So subscribe and like and share this video. My favorite parts of the series are those that directly engage crucial tensions of the Mormon tradition. As a scholar, I want to find evidences or pieces of expressions that I can use to dissect the faith and the community. And as a teacher, I want to find scenes that I can use with my students to further engage what modern Mormonism, religion, gender, and capitalism actually means. And I'll get to a very specific scene in a minute. There were plenty of moments in this second season that really did capture crucial tensions of modern Mormonism. Jen and Zach, when they're dealing with their marital problems, this isn't so much a spoiler because this is carrying over from the first season, and discussing the place of divorce within the LDS tradition. That's a complicated topic, and that's one that you can see the emotions at play. You also had, by the way, Jen dealing with a faith crisis at the very same time, an issue that many Latter-day Saints, especially of her generation, are similarly facing, and to see that depicted on screen was quite powerful. You get Taylor engaging with her family over modesty culture and getting sex shamed from her own father-in-law, an occasion that many people have experienced in the LDS tradition, and so to capture that on screen was powerful. And even in the moments where they are very much not representative of the LDS community, like for instance their sex positive party, they are showing the boundaries of that taboo. For instance, when Jen comes in, like many of the others, wearing her lingerie as the party wear, she made the joke, "I was considering wearing my garmies," a reference to garments, the sacred undergarments that faithful Latter-day Saints wear. So you can note that line, that even though they are not representative of mainstream Latter-day Saints, we're seeing them play with that boundary of belonging and dissent and leaving. And one scene that I enjoyed was when most of the women were in New Orleans sitting around a table and they start discussing their faith. Do they believe in the Book of Mormon? How much of the LDS teachings do they believe in? Many saying that, well, I just mostly believe in general Christian teachings, and then getting into specifics of the Mormon tradition by discussing sealings, bringing up topics that many Mormon women deal with. Jessie talking about her discomfort of still being sealed to her ex-husband because they did not get a temple sealing cancellation yet. And Layla, despite not being active at the moment, saying she'd be willing to go back to church, get a temple recommend, so she could be sealed in the temple to her then boyfriend. Those types of negotiations and practices of belonging that are quite common. And I will also add that many people within the LDS faith who are quick to denounce the show, saying that it's a betrayal of their standards and these women are not reflective of how most Latter-day Saint women live, this show actually reflects a lesson that many of them would likely agree with, that much of their drama and tragedy results of their choosing not to follow LDS principles, a lesson that is voiced by several people in the show, including family members around the main cast. But as promised, let me tell you about my favorite scene from the entire season, and the scene that I would use in my next modern American religion class, not just on Mormonism, but just American religion in general. And that's the Great Mormon Bake-Off scene, when the women got in a competition to make some type of home goods, some food that was then judged by their husbands. This is such a classic display of Mormon performance, of the type of foods they choose, or the messages that they display with those foods. There is a very vibrant field of scholarship on religious foodways and what food tells us about community. So I would dissect that scene with my students and have them tell me, what does these types of food tell us about the culture that they are coming from? For instance, several of the women bake sourdough bread. Why? Well, it ties into this new resurgent idea of a trad wife and the traditional household practices of women. And sourdough bread is an expression of that type of on the frontier traditional baking. You have the use of LDS iconography on several of the foods, with Joseph Smith digging up the gold plates, or a Moroni, various elements that are signaling what the principles are behind that food. You have the issue of the taboo of sex. When someone makes a cake, famously the better than sex cake, as known throughout the nation, but instead it's better than something else cake, because the taboo of sex within the LDS community does not allow them to use the full name. And then there's even the structural nature of women performing housewifery to be judged by men, which is just such a pregnant expression of these central tensions in modern Mormonism. I'm going to mention some critiques, but albeit briefly, because I've already mentioned that reality television just isn't my genre, so the things that annoy me are probably the beloved facets for many watchers. But in general, I thought this season leaned so much more in the manufactured drama of reality TV than the first season did. I mean, nothing embodies that more than the proliferation of these anonymous confession boxes. I don't know anyone who's sitting around and be like, hey, let's do anonymous confessions among us, which is meant to cultivate controversy and drama. There was less authenticity, I believed, in this season. I know authenticity is few and far between in reality TV, but I thought there was more of that in the first season, and those lingering instances became much fewer in this season, although there were exceptions, like Jen's dealing with depression, Michaela confronting the sexual or the trauma of being sexually abused, or Macy coming to grips with the death of a loved one. But further, what made me so much more uncomfortable with this season than with the first season was it leaned so much more heavily into monetizing trauma, not just drama, but trauma with a T, that really made me uncomfortable in what it seemed to be saying about the extents that these women were to go to cultivate viewership. And I didn't feel comfortable with that. All right, two final points before I wrap up this video. One on progress and one on MomTok. And by what strikes me in watching the season, especially in the first part, in the first episode, these women are frequently saying that MomTok is meant to present a more progressive or modern version of Mormonism. And this confused me. I wanted to understand what they meant by progress and modern here. When they're discussing progressive, they certainly don't mean politics. A bit of digging shows that only 2 of these women identify as liberal or progressive in politics, and politics does not really appear in the show at all. So it doesn't mean politics. If you were to ask the women, they likely would refer to some form of female empowerment, but the show, a key theme throughout the season, shows that female empowerment is often quite hollow, especially how much they are subverting one another and tearing each other down, and that friendship and female empowerment is mostly just at the level of making money. So does it mean to be progressive or modern by using media? Well, that's not new. As I discussed in my previous video, we had a whole generation before them who learned how to use the internet to perform their religion and culture online. But what really holds them together, what really presents what they define as a progressive or modern image, is consumerism. They're always depicting the most stylish clothes, throwing lavish parties, going on expensive getaways. Progress is measured in consuming goods and living a certain lifestyle. This is the promise of capitalism, personal liberation through materialism. To be progressive means capitalizing on your personal brand. And this has a direct relationship to modern Mormon culture, as many of the elements that had made the LDS community unique for generations have been stripped away in recent years. It too has been replaced by crass consumerism. Just go into a Deseret book store or look on the billboards along I-15 as driving through Utah. This theology of belonging, therefore, of performance, is one predicated on capitalistic performance. So while the theology and morality of the secret lives of Mormon wives may not be representative of many Mormons, their consumerism definitely is. And finally, let's talk about MomTok as an entity, because that term gets thrown around a lot. The most famous line, of course, from the first season is, "I don't know if MomTok can survive this." And there are plenty of sequels to that phrase in this season of saying, "I don't know if so-and-so should be back in MomTok. I think we've lost the moral foundations of MomTok. I think we need to return to the originals of MomTok. I want to get back into MomTok." What is MomTok? It's not friendship, because it's clear throughout the season they don't have a cohesive or healthy friendship tying together. It's not just the dancing on TikTok. They made it clear they don't do that as much anymore. And then it finally hit me. MomTok is nothing in so much as it is a corporation. It is a monetary bond of profiting off of their brand. They often function like a corporation, MomTok. They hold executive meetings. They vote as a board. They make strategic decisions about their brand. They're willing to tolerate non-friends if it's going to help the corporation's bottom line. And they're going to cut off friends when they hurt the corporation's bottom line, which is one of the great ironies of this show, that a show that, in their words, is dedicated to female empowerment ends up mimicking some of the crucial elements of patriarchal oppression, which is the monetization of women's performance. It just so happens that that money is going back to the number of women, which is one step along those lines. So MomTok is very much as much an expression of modern capitalism as it is about modern Mormonism. All right, that's all I got. Please let me know what I missed and what I got wrong in the comments. If you like this video, please show it by hitting that like button and sharing it with others. And as I mentioned before, please subscribe to this channel if you like this type of analysis of bringing historical and scholarly tools to bear in understanding our cultural moment. History, religion, scholarship has never been more relevant than it is now, which is why these discussions are so important.